Every now and then you might just hear...
Is it?
Like, oh.
So the thing is, my washing machine has a setting that goes up to like 1600 RPM. I'm like, no one needs that much washing. No one needs their clothes.
To the moon, Karl.
No one needs their clothes to be that dry.
That's the thing, it's like, you don't need Elon Musk and SpaceX, you just need to turn it up to max and you'll go to the moon, don't worry.
It's ridiculous. Like, I didn't realise when I moved in, like, the washing machine had that setting. I just went, oh, just turn the washing on, whatever. And I just heard it sound like it was taking off. It sounded like it was walking across the floor. Anyway, welcome to another episode of Wiki Weekends, the series where I, your host for this episode, Karl Smallwood, will scour the lengths and breadths of the internet for a wiki on a subject I'm interested in and share it with my good friend and co-host, Holland.
Hello there.
And today we're talking about, the subject of a game I replayed last week because I was very ill. And when I'm very ill, I replay the same game, Final Fantasy X.
Okay, because I know that you'd been playing some Baldur's Gate 3, and I was like, well, it can't be that much of a tradition considering the game came out a year ago.
Well, I played Final Fantasy X as well. I was playing both back to back. So when I got sick of Final Fantasy X, I booted up Baldur's Gate, and when I got sick of Baldur's Gate, I was very ill.
I need food.
And, of course, the subject of today's video is the protagonist of Final Fantasy X, Tidus. And it's annoying because literally the second word on this wiki entry on Tidus is Tidus, pronounced Tidus. Bollocks to that.
I was going to say, you've already got people in the comments correcting you on that one of like, well, technically it's Tidus.
I don't care. Like, the entire game revolves around a water theme. And the main character's name, Tidus. Water! Right? Fuck you. I don't care. I know, like, the voice actor has said that it's Tidus. Like, in the script it said it was Tidus. It's stupid. No, it's not. It's Tidus.
I will say, Tidus, I think there might be a similar brand, but it reminds me of, like, washing up tablets or dishwasher tablets or something.
Tide. In America, Tide.
There is Tide, yes.
Have you heard as well, like, Tide is as good as money in some parts of the US. You're in, like, very deprived areas. They say, like, you can swap Tide for pretty much anything because it's a thing that people always need. Speaking of washing up, it's a product that everybody needs at some point because everyone wants nice, like, clean clothes. It's a brand that everyone recognises and it's relatively expensive. So there's some place in America where you can just swap Tide for, like, food and stuff.
Makes sense, right? Because think about how in COVID, basically, toilet paper might as well have become currency itself.
Just, or you get that glimpse into the potential Mad Max world in which we're going to live at some point, and it's like toilet roll and Tide. Reminds me a little bit of that episode of like Doomsday Preppers, where there's that couple. Like, everyone else is stupid, stocking up on, like, supplies. We've just bought 8,000 litres of whiskey and some lizards. They just live in their lizard mansion. Anyway.
I'm not gonna lie, they're not wrong, because that would be a hell of a way to go.
Well, it's just, I think the way they frame it is, everyone always, like, stockpiles food and stuff like that. Which is fine, it's a staple, you need food, but we've just stockpiled luxury items like whiskey, alcohol, sugar, sweets. Because... if the worst happens, people are going to want that shit. And we've got loads of it, so we can swap it for whatever we need. And we'll be able to charge a premium.
Well, I mean...
One bottle of whiskey will take up like this much space. And we'll be able to swap that for so much more food than we'd be able to store.
Like, think about, what you see as, like, prison rules, right?
Yep.
Of, like, the commissary is the stuff that's important. Is they've got their essentials down, but the things that are valuable are, things like cigarettes, for example.
Yeah, cigarettes, or like, in some cases, I believe they reference this on Brooklyn Nine-Nine, ramen. Which everyone thinks is like, oh, are they doing that because it's a comedy show and they don't want it to be drugs? And, like, someone asked the creator, it's like, no, in prison, like, prisoners fucking love ramen noodles. Because they're considered to be a luxury item and you can charge, like, through the nose for them.
Yes.
A 2016 study found that while a sweatshirt cost $10.81 at the commissary at Sunbelt State Penitentiary, an inmate could sell that sweatshirt for 2 packs of ramen, increasing the value of ramen by 916%. In fact, food items are the overwhelming majority of what people buy.
So Tidus, sometimes pronounced Tidus if you want to be wrong. And I know I'm wrong, but I played this game for the first time when I was like 11. And you know that thing of like, it's how I pronounced it when I was 11? That's just the way I pronounce it now, like with Pokemon. How many Pokemon do we mispronounce the name of? Because that's just the way we pronounce it when we were 7 years old.
When everybody pronounces Suicune like Suisau or Suiswine. And it's like, okay, yeah, sure, that's your version, sure.
It's the way I pronounced it when I was 7 years old, and it's really hard to unlearn things you learned when you were 7. Anyway, Tidus is the main protagonist of Final Fantasy X. He can also be acquired as a creature creator in the International and Last Mission and HD versions of Final Fantasy X-2. He also plays an extended universe role in the audio drama and associated novella. And Final Fantasy X is one of those games where I replay Final Fantasy X at least once a year. Usually on my birthday or sometimes when I'm ill and I just need to do that comfort game. And Final Fantasy X-2 has a sequel in the form of an audio drama. And the audio drama, I've only listened to it once, went, this is fucking stupid. I refuse to acknowledge its existence. And the summation of it is, Lucas, after Tidus, quote-unquote, dies at the end of Final Fantasy X, and then Yuna spends all of Final Fantasy X-2 getting over the fact that he's dead. In the audio drama, he comes back again, sees a bomb on a beach, thinks it's a blitzball, runs up and boots it, explodes and kills him. And then the entirety of the audio drama is bringing him back again. And then at the end of that, when he's finally back for the third time, Sin comes back. And it sets up for a potential Final Fantasy X-3, and I went, no, it's stupid. I love this game, I love these characters. I'd never want them to make that sequel because they'd have to acknowledge the fact that Tidus died 3 times. One of those times by kicking a bomb.
That's such a Tidus way to go out.
It's a very Tidus thing to do, but just it's so stupid I refuse to acknowledge its existence. Is there anything like that for you with like a series or game or franchise you're a fan of where there's just an aspect of it, you know it exists, you acknowledge that it's a thing, you just refuse to accept it as canon?
I mean, the thing that I refuse to accept as canon isn't canon, but it's the one thing that people always bring up when I mention Zelda games, is the CDI, Wand of Gamelon and those, 3 awful games. And it's like, they're not part of canon. They're not even technically called, Legend of Zelda games. They're not considered part of the series, even in non-canon form, but it's the hill that I will die on of, people always bring them up, and I'm like, no. They do not have The Legend of Zelda written in their titles.
How about a kiss for luck?
You've got to be kidding.
So they're not official canon, at least to Lucas. And I'm the same way with Final Fantasy X. I think Final Fantasy X just is a standalone game to me. Final Fantasy X-2 is fine, but it's mostly just Yuna dealing with her grief over Tidus being dead, even though he was never alive in the first place, which we'll get to in a moment. So, it's a really...
How can you kill what is never alive?
It's a really weird game. And because I've played it so much, the story to me just makes perfect sense. But when I'm saying Tidus is always dead, wait, what? Yeah, technically he's a dream that's given physical form by these weird ghost people. And that's why his alias includes the man from Zanarkand and the man from Dreams.
And how many times do you reckon you have to play through Final Fantasy 13 before any of that fucking shit makes sense?
I still remember when we talked about it, and you just went and got that cutscene for a Wiki we did years ago of here's the literal first cutscene in the game, and they start talking about the last scene, the foul scene. The fuck is this?
You alright? I'm out of the sea.
At least in Final Fantasy X, yeah, it's a weird, wonderful, wacky world. It's an RPG. But they do a really good job of onboarding you into that world by, okay, Tidus is a blitzball player. What's blitzball? Okay, it's football, but you play it underwater. Okay, I've got it. It's weird, but there's a real-world analogue I can glob onto to help me understand what's going on. And then Tidus gets transported into another time. So he is just as much of a newcomer to that world as you are. So the benefit of that is that every character now explains all the aspects of the universe to Tidus, aka you, the player. Whereas in Final Fantasy 13, the main character you're playing as supposedly knows what's going on. So they talk to you as if you should know or care about any of the things they talk about.
And ultimately that game is carried by its characters in the end, but it just drops you into a story where you think you've missed the first 2 chapters, and it's like, what is happening?
Whereas in Final Fantasy X, as is often the case with like good RPGs, like you play as someone who is new to the world. That's why Link is always just waking up after he's been asleep, right? So then you've got the excuse of, oh, hero, in the last 100 years since you were awake, a lot has changed. Allow us to explain those changes to you.
Or even when it's just, oh, in Skyward Sword, for example, Link wakes up and Zelda's like, oh, you silly goose, you're going to be late for the exam. Remember that you need to do this.
Yeah,
it's like,
yep. Like other Final Fantasy games, Final Fantasy VIII, one of my other favourite Final Fantasy games, where you are a student in a school. And as a result, they have to teach you about the world, which is their way of onboarding the basic mechanics of the game.
People wonder why a students kicking the shit out of each other. This is a mercenary training school. We're mercenaries.
And that is a really slow and boring start to the game, admittedly, but at least it is fun, decent context for why the first couple of hours is...
The GF gives us strength. The stronger the GF, the stronger we become. So there's a brief explanation of junctioning. And this is where everyone's eyes just roll into the back of their head. I'm going to skip it as much as I can. Can I go
Can
fast?
you do 3 times speed?
Not in... I've checked.
Oh, god damn it.
Not for these moments. Right, so I'm going to skip this. I'm just going to mash as quickly as I can because I know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And I'll explain it myself when we get into stuff. For fuck's sake. Yeah.
Right.
Is that no? Yeah!
Yes, and it mentions here that Tidus is a rising Blitzball player from Zanarkand and the son of major Blitzball star, Jecht. After the gargantuan monster known as Sin attacks his hometown, Tidus is transported to the world of Spira. Lost, confused, and seemingly out of place, he meets a newly fledged summoner named Yuna and her guardians. Yuna is to set out on her pilgrimage to put an end to Sin, and by joining Yuna on her pilgrimage, Tidus hopes he will find his way home. He is upbeat and initially childish and naive towards the world of Spira, but he's also selfless and will do what he believes is right, even though he doesn't think it through first. And basically just attacks every monster without consequence. What are you doing, Tidus? That's a giant monster. He's like, but it's threatening those people. He has the soul of a hero.
Let's give them all we got.
I like that game when I played through it, but he doesn't think anything through, really. He's an idiot. I'm going to go hit it.
He is a huge idiot, yes. In battle, Tidus wields swords and shields, his sphere grid path, and I love the sphere grid. Like, a lot of people complain about the sphere grid for being too complicated, but the reason I love the sphere grid, which it's because you can, and it's one of the reasons I replay the game every year, is because the sphere grid gives you so much freedom in how to approach the build for your character. And there's an easy version of the sphere grid which basically says, okay, go this way. Like Tidus, as it mentions here, has very high speed and base evasion. And as a result, his sphere grid nudges you towards the path of like a partial white mage, partial thief. Like, he's a hybrid character. But if you want to, and you understand how the sphere grid works, you can make him go in the opposite path. Because like each of the 4 corners of a sphere grid like govern one of like 4 things. Like one's white magic, one's dark magic, one is like defense, one is attack and speed and stuff like that. But if you want to, you can make Tidus into your black mage. You can make your black mage Lulu into your white mage. You can make her into your thief. And I just love that of like just every time I play it, I just make it. Okay, this time I'm going to play as like primarily like Kimahri, Tidus, and Wakka, and I'm going to make Kimahri into my white mage.
Select sphere grid from the main menu. The cursor appears at the selected character's position. Use the directional inputs to move the cursor. Ah, that noise.
I don't know how similar it is to 13 in that regard, where 13, a long time into the game, admittedly, does open up all the avenues for every class, for every person, but it's just so heavily weighted towards the ones that they specialise in that you don't really get much benefit from swapping out their roles.
No, and to a degree in Final Fantasy X that is also the case, because it mentions that Tidus has a very high base speed. So, because his speed is so high, it makes sense to make him into a support character, because he normally acts first, or can act multiple times before a slower character can even get their first move in. So as a result, I normally make him into my support character. Same with like Riku, her base speed is so high because she's supposed to be the thief. It's like, well, rather than making her the thief, I'll just make her into the black mage, because she acts first, so make her do the most damage. If she can act before any other enemy can, she should want to get the first hit in, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's fair enough.
And that's the fact that the game allows you to do that, and it affords you so much freedom to approach the game, where I can just turn my thief into the Black Mage if I want. The problem with it is, though, is that basically, as with most video games, speed is everything. So there's some characters who are literally fucking useless because they just can't act, and it's Lulu. The Black Mage, I've never used her in any playthrough because she's just fucking useless. She's so slow, she can't do anything. Because by the time she's got one move in, Tidus and Riku have already hit 4 times.
That's why I think more like turn-based RPGs need the equivalent of Pokemon's Trick Room, where slow Pokemon go first for a few turns.
Well, so you can use, and one of the things you can do is, like with Tidus, first turn is cast haste, but it's just not worth it.
Let's end this quickly.
Because Lulu has really high base magic, and weirdly she has the highest evasion, which is interesting. Of like, she has the lowest defenses but the highest evasion. And I have tried games where I've tried to, nudge her speed up, because the highest natural evasion means she almost never gets hit. But even when you like nudge her speed up as much as you possibly can and cast haste, she still acts slower than just base Tidus. Because he's just naturally that fast. It's like, I'm sorry, Lulu. Once again, you're gonna just stand in the wings and just watch. Which is not great, right? And then we have here, Lucas, a section on pronunciation. So, since Tidus is never directly referred to by name in any audible dialogue, instead being referred to using impersonal pronouns, i.e. you, him, new guy, and brother, the pronunciation of his name among fans is sometimes unclear. His name in Japanese is slightly different, approximately pronounced Tida, and therefore the assumption is the first syllable pronounced the same in his English name. The pronunciation of his name was first confirmed in an official localization of Kingdom Hearts. And I don't like how when it comes to Final Fantasy, like, official canon, you have to refer to Kingdom Hearts. It's like, I'm not opening that box. In my house, there's just a box that says Kingdom Hearts, and I'm never opening it, because I know that when I do, I'm never going to play another game again.
Me and Tidus, we are going to do a little exploring today.
Like, obviously, it's still made by Square Enix, so it does make sense, but it's a different team than the Final Fantasy team, clearly, so it's just, how much are they just taking liberties with the Final Fantasy franchise? I'm not quite sure.
Yeah, but the fact that, like, his name has been pronounced in there, and surely someone from Square would have had to say, this is how it's pronounced. So that's how those deals normally come about, right? It's like, if you're going to use our character, here's, like, the Bible, is what it's normally referred to as. Like, here's how that character should be referred to, how they act, like, all that good stuff.
I mean, that would be the case if it was someone else developing the game, but it's Square Enix that's developing Kingdom Hearts, so it's like,
they know,
how
right?
much of that do they just get to make up by themselves because they own Final Fantasy?
Either way, it mentions here that James Arnold Taylor, Tidus's English voice actor, has told the story of how the English pronunciation of Tidus's name came about. To make an English version of a trailer, Square hired a narrator in Japan who pronounced the name as Tidus, and this led to producers assuming that that was the proper way to pronounce his name in English. And again, I just think Tidus, because, the water theme in the game is so ubiquitous. It makes no sense that it wouldn't be pronounced the way to evoke water. Like, the literal first thing you see of Tidus in the game is him jumping into a giant pool of water. He has an affinity for water. He's one of the few characters in the game who can swim.
It's just one of those odd things, right, where because it was still back in the day where you can just name all of your JRPG characters whatever you want, so you can make Tidus not that name. You can just call him Buttface if you want.
Yeah, and I think I will acknowledge that Tidus is the way, it's the official pronunciation. I just always call him Tidus, and to me it makes more sense. And he's a video game character, so who really gives a fuck?
Everyone is the answer there.
The annoying thing is, though, is that literally everything in this pronunciation guide is like, it's pronounced Tidus, and I'm like, no, I'm just ignoring it. I'm just going all that. I'm just going to pretend I didn't see it. Because you know what? I play Final Fantasy, and as I say, they never say his name out loud.
Yeah, 10-year-old Karl sitting inside the back of Karl's head going, nope.
Nope, it's pronounced Tidus. Then we have here gameplay. So, Lucas, what do you remember of the gameplay of Tidus? As I mentioned, he is naturally one of the fastest characters, but he has multiple different roles he can fulfill depending on how you build him.
I don't remember too much other than, I should say, he's like the fast-acting character who generally just, gets to get the first hit in or maybe like the second hit in. But yeah, I remember him doing like it's like the eject kick, right?
The eject shot, yeah, which is
the eject shot.
And the thing about the eject shot that I love is because Tidus, is this Blitzball star, which is like he's basically like a celebrity in his own world or his own time. That's the other thing as well. Like, it's a story all about time. Anyway, and they say his dad was like, an even better Blitzball star than he was. And he has like the super spectacular Mega Jet Shot Mark II.
He called it the Sublimely Magnificent Jet Shot Mark III.
Stupid name, huh?
And someone asked him, like, why is it called the Mark II? And he's in Tidus like, my dad's a fucking idiot. Yeah, he called it the Mark II, even though it's the only one, because people would come to his games expect to see the Mark I. There was no Mark I.
You know what? There is no Mark I or Mark II, My old man said the name Mark III was just something to hook the crowd. He said they'd come back every night expecting to see Mark I and Mark II. And they really did come back.
And one of the best things is if you play the Blitzball minigame, which fucking sucks. I don't care what anyone says, Blitzball is the worst minigame. It's not because it's bad, it just takes way too long. Because to get, for example, Wacker's ultimate move, you have to become the best Blitzball player. Which is fine, but Blitzball matches take 10 minutes each, and there's no way to skip them. And it's so random.
And when I saw cutscenes and stuff of Blitzball, I thought,
super fun.
Oh man, this looks like a super fast-paced, fun, I should say, basically football underwater game. And then watching you play it, it's like, why are they all so slow? Oh my god, why is it taking 30 seconds to swim to the ball?
It's also as well really frustrating because the way to beat Blitzball is you just go and get there's a bunch of, you can hire new players. And there's just better players around the world. And I just, for role-playing reasons, I don't like that you replace Wacker's entire team. But also, if you try and play it through just with the Bezaid Aurochs, they're so naturally shit, you basically have to throw yourself against a brick wall and just keep losing tournaments until they level up. And it's not fun, because it takes hours upon hours of gameplay just to get your team at a point where they can actually compete.
So the optimum way is to come in and just act like one of these multi-billionaires that buys one of these clubs and just goes, blank check, just buy a bunch of new better players.
Yeah, and Tidus is one of the best players on the team, and if you manage to get Tidus really leveled up in Blitzball, he learns I think it's either the Tidus shot or the Jet Shot Mark III. He makes his own version of it, and it's an improved version, because in-game, the way that the Jet Shot works is you kick the ball at an opposing player and then punch it back at another player, and you can knock out two people. So it's effectively the best shot in the entire game, because all you do is you swim, and he's also in the water, he's the fastest. I think there's no player in Blitzball who's faster than Tidus is. So the tactic you can use to just min-max it right at the start is pass it to Tidus, swim straight to the net, use the jet shot, because you'll knock out the keeper and the defender, and then kick it straight into the back of the net. But when you get the Tidus shot, you knock out 3 players, so you can do it from the other side of the map. Just pass the ball to Tidus, use the shot, and he knocks out the entire field of people and kicks it straight into the back of the net. That's why he's the star of the Zanarkand Apes.
Remember back in the day, there was a FIFA game, I think it was back when it was still on PS2 or PS3 or something, and I can't remember exactly which year it was, but there was one year where you could basically, if you knew how to take a specific shot, if you had a good enough player taking that shot, you could just score from the halfway line near guaranteed every single time.
Well, every like FIFA game has that one player who you just got to get on your team. I remember there was like one version of FIFA that had like Cristiano Ronaldo, and his speed was bugged, so he could run faster with the ball than any other player in the game could sprint. So all you do is just get Cristiano Ronaldo, put him on the wing, pass it to him, and you can run into the back of the net. Because he was so fast with the ball that even like you had another player with max sprint couldn't catch him. That's what Tidus is like. Let's say you can literally just swim straight up to the net and just do a shot. It's great.
I will say that Tidus, who clearly does not know as much about marketing as his father does, because he's missed a trick by not going straight to the Mark IV.
Just go to the Mark 18, why not? Fuck you.
It's like, well, because that's the thing, you go from 2 to 3, there's no extra mystery shot that people are like, oh, I missed when he did the Mark III one.
I don't think it matters, though, when you can just knock out every other player with a single shot, right? But it mentions here that his sphere grid leads towards agility, evasion, and accuracy. And that's like a stat that's seldom like discussed in like RPGs, but it's actually super broken. And one of my favourite, again in Final Fantasy VIII, one of my favourite facts about that game is that Squall, the main character, has a natural accuracy rating of 255. He literally never misses. Even if you blind him, slow him, you affect him with every single stats condition possible to lower his stats, he will always hit. Every time. He's that good.
Yeah.
It all looked really good considering when this game came out.
And if anyone's wondering, all this stuff here, like the long flowing hair, is virtually impossible to do. It's one of the most difficult things. Like that ruff on her collar there, one of the most difficult things to animate. And they put all that shit in as a flex to show they could.
Yeah, just to show the fuck off.
Like Squall's jacket there, initially, it was a lot less fluffy. But the design thing, Nomura went, no, make it bigger. Why? To show that we can.
And people might be wondering that, like, 255 is such a weird number, but anyone that knows about, like, the programming side of things, it's just, that's the max number in hex with 8 bits. So it's just, generally a lot of older games, numbers will max out at 255 because it goes from 0 to 255, which is 256 values.
Yeah, and Squall's natural accuracy is always at 255 with every weapon he has, so he never misses. And that's like his whole deal of no matter what enemy you're fighting, even if it's a flying enemy with maximum evasion, it always hits because he's Squall. And that's one of the reasons why you always have him on your team, because he never fucking misses, and he has the highest natural just attack stat as well. Like, he's literally the best member of the entire party because he can attack 16 times in one turn. Like, fuck you, Lionheart, let's go. Speaking of Lionheart, we have here his overdrive, and his overdrive is simply swordplay. And the gimmick with Tidus' swordplay is you have to get like a cursor to land in the middle, and the more times you use Tidus' overdrive, the more familiar he becomes with combat. And as a result, the more times you use it, the stronger it gets, until eventually you unlock new versions. And Lucas, do you have a favourite overdrive / limit break from a Final Fantasy game? So let's just talk about them, because Tidus's his initial one is pretty lame. He just does like a front flip and hits him with the sword. But then when you get to the end where you get Blitz Ace, and it's just someone tossing him a Blitz ball, and he's like, I no longer need this sword. It's like the moment they pass Tidus a Blitz ball, he's like, that's it, game over, baby. And he just kicks the Blitz ball so hard it explodes. It's great.
I mean, obviously, I love the fact that Tifa can just kick dolphins out of thin air.
We always, every time we like talk about Final Fantasy, we've always got to mention the Slippery Duchess, just the dolphin kick. Which, like, every time they have a Final Fantasy game with like a monk or something, or like the hand-to-hand fighter, they always give them the reference to that, don't they? They always give them like the dolphin blow.
Let's see if you can keep up with this.
That is great, but I think maybe my favourite just visually might just be the one where Squall just makes like Trunks' fucking spirit sword, but he just makes a sword that becomes a laser from outer space.
Oh, blasting zone, yeah. Where he just I have the power goes all the way into the sky. There's a few. Yeah, the new specials. He's got a new sword.
Blasting zone.
Lucas, are you ready? Oh my God, Squall, no! Squall, no, you can't have this power. I have the fucking power. The consonant-sized blade. Oh, fuck you. Lucas, I have the fucking power.
I think one of mine just gets, it's so simple, but I've always really liked the way it works, and it's Grease Lightning. And it's Yuffie's just first limit break in Final Fantasy VII and Remake, where she just slashes you, and then a few turns later, the slash appears and you take damage. And I've just always liked that as a gimmick of she's so fucking fast, you don't even know you've been hit. And the fact it's called Grease Lightning as well, I always thought was really cool.
Which limit break is it where they can just make people leave the battle?
No, that's selfie. That's like another common trend in Final Fantasy of just, I think it's exit is the status condition. And she has a couple. She has, I think it's the end, which is a special limit break she only gains access to. It's the only character in the game who can do it. And it just instantly kills any enemy you're fighting in one go. And it comes up like at the end of like an anime of like, oh, the flower's in a field, and it just says Fin, and the enemy dies. She also has, I think, it's Judgment.
She literally just ends the battle.
Yeah. And she also has something called, I think it's Judgment, where it has like a 99% chance if the enemy is susceptible to exit, to just put the wings on them and they fly out of the ring and die. So she has like two instant kill attacks that both work on final bosses.
Like, that's it. I don't think it works on the very final boss, but it does
the
work
end
on,
does. That's the thing.
Oh, okay.
She has two. The end, which is super rare. I think it has a 1 in 255 chance of like appearing in a limit break, which is slots.
Mm-hmm.
But like the other one, which is just like it's an instant kill on almost every enemy. But then she has an instant kill on every enemy.
Yeah, because the one that makes them just fly out of the battle, that does work on like the secret bosses.
It does, yes.
And it's just the idea that you walk into a secret boss and just watch them fly out and get the XP, so thank you.
And like, do you know what? Like, instant kill attacks are really fun, and they have one in Final Fantasy X. They have Zanmoto from Yojimbo, who's got to pay to win.
There we go, we win. So...
Okay. Zanmoto. Oh my god, yes.
So he doesn't use his sword, he uses this. This is his special sword that he only uses for special occasions.
Yeah, summon the spectral katana.
So I like to say this for close encounters, Lucas.
Oh, yeah.
So that does no damage. It is an instant kill.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's an instant kill on every enemy.
He just comes in as like, okay, I can defeat the final boss, but empty out those pockets.
Yeah, what are you going to pay me, though?
He's gears some gil, and he's like, okay, fine, I'm just going to kill the final boss in one slash. BAM! Fuck you, I'm done. Bye. And any other limit breaks or overdrives that you're a fan of? Because I've got to mention, if we're mentioning like the exit status, we've got to mention Shooting Star from Oran, where he just baseball swings his sword at an enemy and they just fly out of the ring. It's so good. I remember the first time I did that, and it's so fucking funny.
The first time you showed me it, it was against the things that are basically just the fucking sandworms from Dune.
Everyone always does it on the sandworm because it always looks the funniest. It's so fucking massive. You just baseball swing it into the horizon.
No time to waste. Let's go.
And since we're talking about Final Fantasy X, I've got to give a shout out to some of the other limit breaks in that game because they are kind of fun. Some of them are pretty basic, like Yuna just gets Grand Summon, where she summons in an Aeon and it automatically has like its own limit break, which is very useful but not that fun. Then you have Mix from Riku, which you can combine any 2 items in the game to just create a variety of effects. And it's not infinite. I think there's like 100 different things you can do. But just like the first time you think, what happens if I mix up 2 legendary endgame items and you throw it and the enemy just dies? So what happens if I just mix together 2 black holes and it's like, oh, double black hole, instant nega death. Awesome.
I love the idea that, oh, what do you use elixirs for in Final Fantasy X? Oh, to just throw at the enemy.
Yeah, if you mix 2 elixirs, I think it just gives you like a mega elixir and it gives you like the immunity to damage for like 30 seconds or something. Then you have Kimari, and he's your blue mage, so he can use enemy attacks, and one of the ones he can learn is Kick, which is similar to Shooting Star, where it just kicks the enemy out of the ring, but it looks so much cooler because he just kicks them really fucking hard and they fly out of the ring. But alternately, if the enemy is resistant to that status effect, he just looks like he kicks them really fucking hard in the face, and that's also super fun.
And I guess I also just have to give a shout out to the, it's Zell, right, in Final Fantasy VIII?
Punch Rush Armageddon.
Where you just showed me that, oh yeah, if you're quick enough, you can just do this 50 move combo in a limit break.
Yeah, and the way his works is, the idea is you do a couple of basic attacks, and then it leads you into stronger, more powerful combos and combo finishes, which ends with the one where he runs all the way around the world and punches the enemy in the face. The problem is that Final Fantasy VIII is one of those Final Fantasy games where you can't break the damage limit. So at a certain point, you're doing 9,999 damage with every single hit. So my Final Heaven, his ultimate attack, does the same amount of damage as a basic punch. And it takes longer to do. So it's actually more optimal to just do his basic attacks over and over and over again. Because you can hit them 15 times rather than hitting them once, because my Final Heaven instantly ends the combo. Oh! We still got Doom! It was all locked in loaded.
Zell was waiting the entire...
He was locked and ready to go. Zell never took his eyes off the prize. And even though I know it's going to do no damage, I still want to do it. I'm going to lift up all of reality!
Holy shit.
Just bench press Tartarus. Yeah, you can't forget the dolphins.
Only the shit if you're like the god of time itself.
Cade running through space.
Whereas if you know exactly what inputs to do, then you can do the basic ones over and over in like 0.1 second. So that 5-second limit break all of a sudden becomes like 20 odd different combinations of hits.
And that's one of those problems of like, yes, that move looks really cool and fun, but it does as much damage as punching them normally. It's like Squall, that's why he's the best character, because his limit break is he hits them 16 times. So each of those 16 hits can do 99999. Same with like Cloud, isn't it? Of like Omnislash. It's one of the best moves in the entire game, because once you start breaking the damage limit, he hits them again, like, I don't know how many times Omnislash hits, but it's a fucking lot.
Yeah.
And each of those hits does maximum damage, which is better than any single hit, as cool as the animation for that single hit may be.
Poor Blasting Zone.
Well, that's the thing, Blasting Zone's great, but he doesn't hit 16 times. Right? And that's the problem. Like, he doesn't hit multiple times. That's why, like, in like Final Fantasy X, I do like that you can break the damage limit. So as a result, characters who only do one big single burst attack can be useful. But ultimately, it means that Tidus is still the best, because all of his supers hit multiple times. As does Whackers. I think his ultimate one, it hits 16 times, where he just kicks the blitz ball at you and it hits 16 times. If he's broke the damage limit, it does like 1.5 million damage. from one blitz. And then you think to yourself, how is this guy's blitzball team the worst in the league? He can kick a ball hard enough for it to kill the final boss in one hit. How the fuck did he... Remember when I pointed out to you? There's like that bit in Final Fantasy X where you are in the sky and Sin is like 4 miles away. And Whacker can throw a blitzball hard enough to hurt the final boss, and then it bounces back and he catches it. While you are both flying through the air at 1,000 miles an hour. And it's like, somehow, this guy's team loses every time.
He's just not a good swimmer, that's all.
It might be that. It might just be a shit... The thing I like about that game is they talk about how we have to do, like, breath-holding training. And they talk about how some blitzball players are so good they can fall asleep underwater. They're so good at holding their breath, they fall asleep underwater.
Don't question it. It makes perfect sense.
Oh, yeah, and then, Lucas, there's one final section here on, like, reception to Tidus, and it's simply voice, because it's one of the first Final Fantasy games to receive voice acting. And it says there's a section dedicated simply to the laughing scene. So should we talk about that?
I mean, I guess we
it's
have
the one
right?
thing everyone knows about Tidus, right? So, an infamous scene in Final Fantasy X centering on Tidus has become known as the laughing scene, where Tidus pretend laughs at Yuna's encouragement for him to be happy even when he isn't. The scene has gained some notoriety among fans, and I say it's gained notoriety among people who haven't played the game.
Yeah, and that's the thing is, before we played through Final Fantasy X together, that was one of the only things I knew about the game.
Yeah.
And
how
that was
bad the
definitely
voice
the
acting
only
is, right?
cutscene I'd seen.
Because everyone always thinks, it always gets framed as, look at how bad the voice acting is, listen to how false and hollow these laughs sound.
Probably shouldn't laugh anymore.
When the whole point of the scene is that they are fake laughing.
This is weird.
Next, try laughing out loud.
What?
Come on, show me.
Yeah, it's just Yuna fake laughing in a shit situation to try and bring Tidus's mood up and be like, hey, grumpy pants, we need to cheer up and move on.
And that's what she tells him. She says, I smile even when I'm not happy because me smiling makes other people happy. And maybe that will make me happy too. And one of the things that always gets left out of that scene of like, admittedly, the laughing is bad, but it's on purpose. They are purposely faking laughter. Is that immediately after they do it, they both share a look and then start genuinely laughing.
Too funny.
It was your idea.
That's like, if you watch that full cutscene, it is good voice acting because it is good voice actors pretending to laugh fakely and poorly.
It's what they talk about. There's a lot of like interviews with actors where they're asked like, what's the hardest thing to act? And voice actors as well, like, what's the hardest thing to do as a voice actor, an actor, or a performer? It's like, well, it's to pretend that you don't know what you're doing. It's like artists. Any artists out there will know one of the hardest things you can do as an artist is draw something as if you can't draw. Like, pretend to draw something badly, or as if it's like, from the drawing something like a child would. It's almost impossible because it's so difficult to unlearn all the lessons that you're aware of, and it's so like voice acting and acting. One of the hardest things to do is act as if you're a bad actor. And we have here just a quote from the director of the game, Yoshinori Kitase, commenting on the laughing scene in 2019. Even in the real world, actions taken by two people in a budding romance are generally embarrassing memories when you look back on them. I believe that this scene depicts that mental state very well. The scene is of course still made fun of by fans, but I imagine that's because it greatly touched something in everyone's hearts for it to be such a memorable scene, even after 18 years. And he's been a lot kinder than I would be of like, did you play the game? Because every time someone mentions that, it's like, did you play the game? No, I just saw that scene out of context, but did you play the game? Because it's explained, right? You just...
Yeah.
But the voice acting's so bad. No, it's actually really good, because the fact you think it's bad means the voice actors did their job by making the laughter seem fake and hollow. Because that's the fucking point of the scene.
I learned to practice smiling. When I'm feeling sad, you know. I know it's hard.
Yeah. I understand. I think.
Right. Now let's see what you can do.
And that's the thing, you don't need to have played the game, you just need to have watched that one full cutscene.
Watch the next 30 seconds of the scene you're making fun of. When you see that after they do the fake laughing, they look at each other and share a moment of genuine connection, where they laugh honestly, and their laughter sounds very genuine. And it mentions here that, the localization director, Alexander O. Smith, has commented on the scene being just as weird and stilted as out of place as it is in the Japanese version, because that's the point of the scene. That scene always annoys me, because people always bring it up and it's like, but did you play the game though? It's like, well no. It's like, well then what are you talking about?
Again, you don't need to do anything past just watching that full cutscene.
Yeah, like,
because you'll get the context then.
But you know what, that's a story for another day. And if anyone out there would like to continue the conversation myself and Lucas have had in this video, you can follow the links found below to our Discord. Also, you'll probably notice I put a few clips in of myself and Lucas playing through Final Fantasy X and 8. They are found on my gaming channel, link below. And something myself and Lucas may be doing in the near future is bringing back both of our gaming channels in some form and just making a Wiki Weekends themed gaming channel if we can get enough support on Patreon. But you can follow the channel for more information on that and just watch this space.
Hell yeah.
Cheers everybody, see you all next time.